If you can't hear, you can rearrange your cushions or come closer. I try to have, it sounds like I'm shouting to me right now. So if you can't hear, just tell me to speak up a little bit, or feel free to move. Oh, I almost forgot. Just in case you're taking me too seriously, if I do that. I don't know if I can balance the whole time. It's actually kind of, oh, there we go. Control is as real as a one-legged uniform taking a leak at the end of a rainbow. Fall down, get up is bullshit. It's a perpetual fall. It's about stumbling in the right direction. That's a quote from the character Ray from the TV series Mr. Robot. And I collected that a long time ago and I've been waiting for the right time. So this quote reminded me a little bit of something that Okamura Roshi once said about the way, that we stumble towards the Buddha. And stumbling towards the Buddha is the Buddha. We stumble towards our vows, knowing that we're never gonna accomplish them, but we keep going no matter what. Dogen Zenji said, Shoshaku Fushaku, Jushaku, sorry. Shoshaku Jushaku. Shaku generally means mistake or wrong. Shoshaku Jushaku means to succeed wrong with wrong, or one continuous mistake. So according to Dogen, one continuous mistake can also be Zen. A Zen master's life could be said to be so many years of Shoshaku Jushaku. This means so many years of one single-minded effort. It's a quote from Suzuki Roshi. Stumbling, mistake after mistake. The life of Shakyamuni Buddha provides us some context for stumbling. Up to and including much of his young adult life, Shakyamuni followed the path of materialism. Materialists assume that the only thing real is what can be experienced through the senses. They assume there is nothing at all outside the phenomenal world. So hedonism is the natural application of these assumptions. Life should be about having as much pleasurable experiences as you can, as many pleasurable experiences as you can, and avoiding pain at all costs. So Siddhartha Gautama lived a life of luxury. It was only when he contacted the limits of this lifestyle vicariously through his encounters with sickness, old age, and death, and realized that as a human being, these three states were also his destiny, that he chose to give up that path. Which I wouldn't necessarily recommend because he was he was a deadbeat husband and father. He just left. I guess that was okay because he was Buddha? I don't know. So he gave up that path and thought, well, there must be something more. And then he just discovered idealism in the practice of a wandering ascetic. Idealism has the opposite view of reality, assuming that nothing in the material world is real because it's impermanent, and that by dominating and overcoming the material world, one can experience true reality, the spiritual world that does not perish. So after many years of practice, and so ascetic practice is pretty brutal if you know anything about it. It's like standing on one leg for hours, not eating, like one grain of rice for like 2 weeks or something, standing naked in thorn bushes to sort of dominate your body, get beyond pain and pleasure. It's kind of to destroy the body, to sort of free the spirit. I wouldn't recommend this either. So far, don't be a deadbeat partner and parent, and then also don't wander naked into thorn bushes looking for enlightenment. The good thing is Shakyamuni did those things already, so like they're ruled out. We don't have to try them. So after many years of this, self-inflicted abuse and denying his body of the basic things it needs to survive, he got to the point of actually mastering pain and discomfort. While he was practicing, he didn't care if he was in pain, didn't care if he was hungry. He had moments of clarity and spiritual power, so that he could, he mastered the art of clairvoyance and could see into past lives and telekinesis and all that fun stuff. However, these moments were fleeting. They didn't last either. He always returned to this moment and this life, which proceeds without delay towards old age, sickness, and ultimately death. And in fact, if you've seen statues of Shakyamuni completely emaciated on the verge of death, that's sort of a statue of representing him right before he decides to leave that path, right at the end of it. So he contacted the limits of idealism himself. Even the most dedicated practitioner cannot escape the material world, can't escape cause and effect. So Siddhartha abandoned ascetic practice and instead nourished his body and sat in a lotus position under a ficus tree. I guess when you do all these extreme things, like just sitting under a ficus tree seems like, okay, well, I guess this is the last thing I haven't tried, so why not? And after a period of intense practice, he attained the way, the middle way. The middle way is the right direction towards which we stumble in our Zen practice. The nexus of the material and the essential is the fact of reality. This is where form and emptiness manifest as one, like two arrows meeting in midair, as it says in The Identity of the Relative and Absolute. As Roshi Bruce liked to say, Zen is a verb. It's a perpetual fall. Where does stumbling in the right direction occur? And what is the way? Those two questions, my friends, are the entry point to the Dharma. So think of your own life for a moment. Have you ever been caught in a lifestyle that was about being someone else or having a different life, accumulating as much pleasure and avoiding as much pain as you can? At times it might be about making yourself comfortable. At other times it might be about transcending and overcoming that need to be comfortable. You're going to be spiritual and holy. Notice that both lifestyles are fundamentally about separation between you and your actual life. As hard as you might try, you'll never be anybody else. You'll never have another body. And on the other side, no matter what you do, you will never achieve any sense of permanence. Even the holiest of holy people is still capable of unspeakable evil, given the right circumstances. So, both of these extremes are about finding ways to be something other than human, superhuman. Notice also how futile that effort is. In the end, like it or not, you're always going to be human. As the saying goes, no matter where you go, there you are. Many people are struggling right now. Many people are struggling for the right just to be, to exist right now. As one of our students recently told me, my existence is my resistance. Powerful words. And this is where we are right now. This is exactly how it is. Cannot be any other way right now than it is right this second. In the next moment, maybe things will be different. But things are exactly 100% the way they are right now. And you cannot exchange your life with anyone else's life. Circumstances can change, of course, just like the weather. Circumstances are often not under our control. Even if we're in the process of making significant changes, we still have to live through the transition. There is no escape. Looking for the exit door is stumbling in the wrong direction. There's actually a koan about that. A monk is frustrated with life in the monastery and says to the teacher, "I'm leaving." And gets up to leave and goes to the door, and the teacher says, "Oh, that's not the door out." So the monk says, "Okay." And goes to another door. "Oh, that's not your door either." And there weren't any other doors, so it goes to the windows. That's not either the door either. The monk had some realization at that point. There is no escape. Let me tell you a story about two frogs. So one day, while searching for food, two frogs accidentally jumped into a bucket of milk. And they couldn't get out as the sides were too slippery. So they were just kind of swimming about. And the first frog said to the second frog, "Brother frog, there's no use paddling any longer. We're just going to drown, so we might as well just give up." And the second frog replied, "Hold on, brother, keep paddling. Somebody will get us out." So they continued for hours. After a while, the first frog said, "Brother frog, there's no use. I'm becoming very tired now. I'm just going to stop paddling and drown. It's Sunday, and nobody's working. We're hopeless. There's no possible way out of here." But the second frog said, "Keep trying, keep paddling. Something will happen. Keep paddling." And another couple of hours passed. And the first frog said, "I can't go on any longer. There's no sense in doing it because we're just going to drown anyway. What's the use?" And the first frog stopped. And he gave up. And he quit struggling in the milk. And he drowned. But the second frog was determined and kept paddling. You might actually say that the first frog was the smarter frog. If you really think things are hopeless and you're going to perish anyway, well, why perish completely spent and exhausted? It's actually foolish to continue in hopeless circumstances, from one perspective. So 10 minutes later, the second frog felt something solid beneath his feet. To his astonishment, he saw that he was resting on a lump of butter, which he had successfully churned by his continuous paddling. And the successful little frog was able to sort of leap out off of that butter raft, out of the pail to freedom. Persistence in the face of hopelessness is a really hard thing to do if you're holding on to a sense of getting out as the criterion for continuing. So bodhisattvas, the path of the bodhisattva, is kind of similar to that of the second frog with some key differences. The bodhisattva strive to know the path to liberation from suffering, the door to the way. This realization gives rise to great compassion for the predicament that we all face and the desire to help wherever we can. Struggling ourselves, we come to know what struggling is like and see that it's like that for everyone else. And we start to feel genuine compassion for all beings who are struggling and suffering. Furthermore, bodhisattvas vow to live their lives in the service of all the other froggies, refusing to hop out of the bucket until they're the only one left. Figure out how to make butter, let everybody else know, and then don't hop out until you're the only one left. We actually choose consciously, deliberately, over and over again to stay in the bucket and churn the milk to make butter rafts for all beings. Nishijima Roshi said that Buddhism is humanism. It is a thoroughly human religion, a religion which exalts the dignity of human beings as they actually are. So if we are to understand Buddhism, we must understand what it means to be human. According to Buddhism, our task is not to analyze, but to live, to really live. We must get into the river of life or the bucket of milk, whichever metaphor you prefer. Or in Master Dogen's words, we must stay in the water. To stay in the water / bucket of milk is to live sincerely in the world as it is, exactly as it is, precisely as it is, without being concerned that it's right or wrong or good or bad. And when we find the real world as it is, we enter reality itself. The teaching that sustains me the most these days is this. And this is a paraphrasing by Brad Warner of my favorite line from Dogen's Shohaku Makusa, which is not committing wrongs, from Shobogenzo. So I'll read you I'll read you Dogen's words first, Nishijima's translation of Dogen's words first, and I'll leave you with Brad's. So the original text can be translated as, even if wrong upon wrong pervade the entire universe, and even if wrongs have swallowed the whole Dharma realm again and again, there is still salvation and liberation in not committing wrongs, because the many kinds of right are right at the beginning, right in the middle, and right at the end. Many kinds of right are right in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And there's still salvation and liberation in not committing wrongs. So wrongs in the context of Buddhism have to do with what's workable and what does not lead to suffering for yourself or others, given the present context. It's not an absolute, there's a right thing to do and a wrong thing to do. There's not a rule to follow. If you're looking for rules to follow, be a materialist or an idealist. It's a little bit easier that way. We have to live in the middle way. We're in the real world. So here's what Brad Warner had to say. This is his rephrasing. Even if the whole universe is nothing but a bunch of jerks doing all types of jerk-type things, there's still liberation in simply not being a jerk. I know that a lot of you probably want to do something to make a difference, especially right now. And maybe you, like me, sometimes overlook that one way you can make a difference is just not be a jerk. We vow to save all sentient beings. Sometimes that means saving all sentient beings from us at our worst. It's worth noting that when Dogen wrote those words, there was probably the worst famine in Japanese history going on. 1/3 of the Japanese population died. Society was in chaos. They actually legalized human trafficking for some reason. See why I brought out my orange little guy? That too is the way. Little acts of kindness, a smile here and there, saying thank you, expressing gratitude, being an ordinary, decent human being is not a bad response to feeling helpless and hopeless on the macro level. If you want to take it a little bit further than that, I would recommend that you consider the Service 108 challenge that we offer. 108 days of some combination of formal service or random acts of kindness. When I did Service 108, I volunteered at the SPCA as a cat cuddler. And a nursery nanny. And make no mistake, those kittens want to kill you. They look cute, but they're trying to kill you. You know, some days, not trying to scratch back when a kitten is trying to kill you is the way. So my friends, I understand it's a hard time. I've been struggling with it myself. But let's not forget our practice. Let's hold on to our practice. And let's use the examples of all of our ancestral teachers and all of the students who have come before us who have lived through horrible, horrible, unspeakable situations and held on to their practice. Because the world really needs us right now. They need some sense and some model of how to be in awful circumstances without losing our minds. To be kind and generous and serve even when it would be completely understandable to do the opposite of that. There's still liberation in not being a jerk.